Hello and welcome everyone. Is my voice clear and audible? Okay. So we'll begin with today's session. We begin with a short meditation. Sit back and relax. Withdraw your attention from the outside world and bring it to yourself. Imagine a warm golden light filling your heart, symbolizing God's love. As you breathe in, envision this light expanding, nurturing, and comforting you. As you exhale, imagine any fears or worries leaving your body. Now repeat to yourself, I am loved, I am worthy, I am enough. Allow these words to sink deeply into your heart, filling you with a sense of acceptance, compassion, and love. As you continue to breathe, imagine God's love embracing you, guiding you, and supporting you. Feel the sense of peace, joy, and security that arises from knowing you are loved unconditionally. Take a moment to reflect on the areas of your life where you may have felt unloved, unworthy, or insufficient. Allow God's love to fill those spaces, bringing healing, comfort, and reassurance. As you sit in silence, allow yourself to receive God's love, trusting that it is always available to you. Feel the warmth, peace, and joy that arises from this connection. Okay, thank you so much. So we'll begin with today's session. I'll just share the screen. Okay. So yesterday we started with relationships as spiritual practice. So we are just continuing from there. So the author is saying if you both agree that the relationship will be your spiritual practice, so much the better. You can then express your thoughts and feelings to each other as soon as they occur or as soon as a reaction comes up so that you do not create a time gap in which an unexpressed or unacknowledged emotion or grievance can fester and grow. Learn to give expression to what you feel without blaming. Learn to listen to your partner in an open, non-defensive way. Give your partner space for expressing himself or herself. Be present. Accusing, defending, attacking, all those patterns that are designed to strengthen or protect the ego or to get its needs met will then become redundant. Giving space to others and to yourself is vital. Love cannot flourish without it. यहाँ पे ऑथर कह रहे हैं कि अगर आप दोनों पार्टनर्स टुगेदर हो इस जर्नी में स्पिरिचुअल प्रैक्टिस में तो आप बहुत ओपनली अपने थॉट्स और फीलिंग्स एक दूसरे के साथ डिस्कस कर सकते हो और जब भी कुछ इमोशन आए तो आप ओपनली अपने पार्टनर के साथ वो डिस्कस करो और हमेशा जब भी हम लिसन करते हैं तो we always should listen in a non-judgmental, in a very open-minded and non-defensive way without any blaming. तो ऑथर यही समझा रहे हैं हमें और स्पेशली इम्पोर्टेंट है कि हम अपने पार्टनर को गिव देम स्पेस टू एक्सप्रेस and also whenever there is a conversation it's very important to be in the present एंड कोई भी इगोइक माइंड का कोई भी डिफेंसिव या एक वो जजमेंट वाला जो माइंड क्रिएट करता है उससे वी हैव टू डिटैच ourselves from the mind and be in the present when we are with our partner. यहाँ पे ऑथर कह रहे हैं कि giving space to others and to yourself is vital. Love cannot flourish without it. When you have removed the two factors that are destructive of relationships, when the pain body has been transmuted and you are no longer identified with mind and mental positions, and if your partner has done the same, you will experience the bliss of the flowering of relationship. अगर दोनों ही पार्टनर्स उसी स्पिरिचुअल जर्नी में है माइंड आइडेंटिफाइड नहीं है अपने आप को डिटैच किया हुआ है माइंड से तो एक बहुत ब्यूटीफुल रिलेशनशिप होगा. Instead of mirroring to each other your pain and your unconsciousness, instead of satisfying your mutual addictive ego needs, you will reflect back to each other the love that you feel deep within, the love that comes with the realization of your oneness with all that is. This is the love that has no opposite. जब वो माइंड आइडेंटिफाइड नहीं होंगे जब इगोइक माइंड हमें रूल नहीं करेगी तो वो जो भी इमोशंस आएंगे दैट विल बी आवर ट्रू इनर सेल्फ एंड देन दैट हैज नो ऑपोजिट बिकॉज हम दोनों ही जब पार्टनर सोल कॉन्शियस हो जाएंगे तो वो माइंड माइंड की जो चैटर है उस पे हट जाएंगे डिटैच हो जाएंगे so that will give rise to a very beautiful and unconditional loving relationship. If your partner is still identified with the mind and the pain body, while you are already free, this will represent a major challenge, not to you, but to your partner. It is not easy to live with an enlightened person, or rather, it is so easy that the ego finds it extremely threatening. Remember that the ego needs problems, conflict, and enemies to strengthen the sense of separateness on which its identity depends. The unenlightened partner's mind will be deeply frustrated because its fixed positions are not resisted, which means they will become shaky and weak, and there is even the danger that they may collapse altogether, resulting in the loss of self. The pain body is demanding feedback and not getting it. So, जब partners may, if one partner is very spiritually enlightened और जो जो दूसरा पार्टनर है वो अभी भी बहुत माइंड आइडेंटिफाइड ही है। तो जो जो अनएनलाइटन पार्टनर है उसके लिए ऑथर कह रहे हैं बहुत डिफिकल्ट हो जाता है अपने वो ईगो के नीड्स को सेटिस्फाई करना। Because वो जो ईगो तो मानती और ईगो wants some sort of argument, some sort of quarrel, कुछ तो ईगो को चाहिए to keep it alive। तो फिर क्या होता है वो उनको बड़ा मुश्किल हो जाता है अपने ईगो के डिजायर्स को सेटिस्फाई करना और अपनी ईगो माइंड को कंट्रोल करना। The need for argument, drama, and conflict is not being met. But beware, some people who are unresponsive, withdrawn, insensitive, or cut off from their feelings may think and try to convince others that they are enlightened, or at least there is nothing wrong with them and everything wrong with their partner. Men tend to do that more than women. They may see their female partners as irrational or emotional. But if you can feel your emotions, you are not far from the radiant inner body just underneath. If you are mainly in your head, the distance is much greater, and you need to bring consciousness into the emotional body before you can reach the inner body. तो ये यहाँ पे ऑथर कह रहे हैं कि जो द अनएनलाइटेंड पार्टनर विल ट्राई टू डिफेंड इटसेल्फ बिकॉज उनको लगेगा कि वो माइंड से आइडेंटिफाइड है और उनके हिसाब से दैट इज द enlightened way, that is what the way it should be. So they have not learned to disidentify from the mind, watch their emotions. वो उनको पता नहीं है, they're still in their head. So उससे क्या है, the distance between the inner body is and their, consciousness बहुत ज्यादा distance हो गया because वो still बहुत ज्यादा egoic mind से identified है। तो उन्होंने अपने आप को बहुत डिस्टेंस कर दिया है अपने इनर बॉडी, अपने pure consciousness से. If there isn't an emanation of love and joy, complete presence and openness towards all beings, then it is not enlightenment. Another indicator is how a person behaves in difficult or challenging situations or when things go wrong. If your enlightenment is egoic self delusion, then life will soon give you a challenge then that will bring out your unconsciousness in whatever form, as fear, anger, defensiveness, judgment, depression, and so on. If you are in a relationship, many of your challenges will come through your partner. For example, a woman may be challenged by an unresponsive male partner who lives almost entirely in his head. She will be challenged by his inability to hear her, to give her attention and space to be, which is due to his lack of presence. The absence of love in the relationship, which is usually more keenly felt by a woman than a man, will trigger the woman's pain body, and through it she will attack her partner, blame, criticize, make wrong, and so on. This in turn now becomes his challenge. To defend himself against her pain body's attack, which he sees as totally unwarranted, he will become even more deeply entrenched in his mental positions as he justifies, defends himself, or counterattacks. ये बहुत important point author समझा रहे हैं कि if we feel we are enlightened, we have to have that complete unconditional love, presence, and openness towards everyone within us. और इसका सबसे बड़ा चैलेंज तब होता है कि जब फॉर एग्जाम्पल जैसे ऑथर ने समझाया पार्टनर्स में, इफ वन पार्टनर feels that she's enlightened and say her uh, partner नहीं है इतने enlightened, especially the woman feels she's enlightened. But अगर if जैसे challenging situations होती है, her husband is not able to give her attention because he's too egoic mind identified है. तो जब उसके वजह से जब the woman starts blaming criticizing him, तो उससे क्या होगा, उनकी भी पेन बॉडी ट्रिगर हो रही है फिर, दैट इज नॉट एग्जैक्टली एनलाइटनमेंट because she is blaming him for not understanding the path that she is on, the spiritual path that she is on. And he's also not understanding because he's completely mind identified. तो उसमें क्या होता है, दोनों की पेन बॉडीज एक दूसरे को अटैक कर रही हैं. So when both partners have thus been taken over, a level of deep unconsciousness has been reached of emotional violence, savage attack, and counter attack. It will not subside until both pain bodies have replenished themselves and enter the dormant stage. Until the next time. तो ये क्या होगा फिर जब जब दोनों की ही, फिर इवन द वुमन विल गेट इनटू हर पेन बॉडी, तो वो दोनों ही फिर आपस में इगोइक क्लैश होगा. This is only one of an endless number of scenarios. Many volumes have been written, and many more could be written about the ways in which unconsciousness is brought out in male-female relationships. But as I said earlier, once you understand the root of the dysfunction, you do not need to explore its countless manifestations. Let's look again at the scenario I have just described. Every challenge that it contains is actually a disguised opportunity for salvation. At every stage of the unfolding dysfunctional process, freedom from unconsciousness is possible. So, every situation, every challenge that comes towards us, it has come to teach us something, it has come to bring us, bring out the unconsciousness, and ताकि हम और liberate हो सके. जैसे author कह रहे, it's actually a disguised opportunity for salvation, for liberation. हम सोचते हैं कि ये क्यों सिचुएशन आ रही है, क्यों हमारे पार्टनर नहीं समझ पा रहे, जैसे कुछ सिचुएशंस में होता है. So but that is actually, we have to look at it as an opportunity for liberation to, see the unconsciousness in us as well. मतलब वो एक learning process होती है. For example, the woman's hostility could become a signal for the man to come out of his mind identified state, awaken into the now, become present, instead of becoming even more identified with his mind, even more unconscious. Instead of being the pain body, the woman could be the knowing that watches the emotional pain in herself, thus assessing the power of the now and initiating the transmutation of the pain. तो इंस्टेड ऑफ जैसे अगर कुछ ऑपोजिशन हो रहा है, अगर नई अंडरस्टैंडिंग हो रही, तो इंस्टेड ऑफ हैविंग एन आर्ग्यूमेंट और ब्लेमिंग और गेटिंग खुद ही माइंड आइडेंटिफाइड होने के बजाय, उस टाइम भी अपने माइंड से कैसे डिटैच करके उस चैलेंज के साथ डील कर सकते हैं, पेशेंटली, कामली, by being in the present and watching the pain body, herself. The woman should has actually has to look detach and see her own emotions and feelings that are going on. वो or blaming feels, or वो feelings की, the husband is not understanding, the partner is not understanding. इसको observe करना. It is more of a learning process. This would remove the compulsive and automatic outward projection of it. She could then express her feelings to her partner. There is, of course, no guarantee that he will listen, but it gives him a good chance to become present and certainly breaks the insane cycle of the involuntary acting out of old mind patterns. If the woman misses that opportunity, the man could watch his own mental, emotional reaction to her pain, his own defensiveness, rather than being the reaction. He could then watch his own pain body being triggered and thus bringing consciousness into his emotions. In this way, a clear and still space of pure awareness would come into being. The knowing, the silent witness, the watcher. This awareness does not deny the pain and yet is beyond it. It allows the pain to be and yet transmutes it at the same time. It accepts everything and transforms everything. A door would have opened up for her through which she could easily join him in that space. अगर if the woman also starts, detaching herself, so अगर, the man does not get any reaction from her, he will also start, it might be possible कि वो भी अपने माइंड को ऑब्जर्व करना शुरू कर दे, उनमें भी वो अवेयरनेस, वो अवेकनिंग शुरू हो जाए. If you are consistently or at least predominantly present in your relationship, this will be the greatest challenge for your partner. तो जितना ज्यादा आप हम खुद प्रेजेंट रहेंगे इन अ रिलेशनशिप उतना ज्यादा वो पार्टनर के लिए चैलेंजिंग होता रहेगा. जब उनको हमसे रिएक्शन नहीं आएगा, जब वो हमसे वो लव, प्योरिटी, कामनेस और एक फील करते रहेंगे, तो उनके लिए काफी चैलेंजिंग हो जाएगा बिकॉज उनकी इगोइक माइंड सेटिस्फाई नहीं हो रही होगी. They will not be able to tolerate your presence for very long and stay unconscious. If they are ready, they will walk through the door that you opened for them and join you in that state. If they are not, you will separate like oil and water. The light is too painful for someone who wants to remain in darkness. अगर तो माइंड का कंट्रोल बहुत ज्यादा है, if the partner is जैसे ऑथर ने कहा मेनली इन द हेड, प्रिडोमिनेटली इन द हेड, अगर वो अपनी इमोशंस, फीलिंग्स को ऑब्जर्व नहीं कर पा रहे, तो उनके लिए दिस प्रेजेंस विल बी टू मच टू हैंडल. वो नहीं डील कर पाएंगे. जैसे ऑथर ने कहा वेरी ब्यूटिफुली दैट द लाइट विल बी टू पेनफुल for someone who wants to remain in darkness. Okay. Why women are closer to enlightenment? Are the obstacles to enlightenment the same for a man as for a woman? Yes, but the emphasis is different. Generally speaking, it is easier for a woman to feel and be in her body. So she is naturally closer to being and potentially closer to enlightenment than a man. This is why many ancient cultures instinctively chose female figures or analogies to represent or describe the formless and transcendental realities. तो यहाँ पे ऑथर ये कह रहे हैं कि जो वुमेन है उनके लिए easier होता है to feel their own body, to feel their inner self. It was often seen as a womb that gives birth to everything in creation and sustains and nourishes it during its life as form. In the Tao Te Ching, one of the most ancient and profound books ever written, the Tao, which could be translated as being, is described as infinite, eternally present, the mother of the universe. Naturally, women are closer to it than men, since they virtually embody the unmanifested. What is more, all creatures and all things must eventually return to the source. All things vanish into the Tao. It alone endures. Since the source is seen as female, this is represented as the light and dark sides of the archetypal feminine in psychology and mythology. The goddess or divine mother has two aspects. She gives life and she takes life. When the mind took over and humans lost touch with the reality of their divine essence, they started to think of God as a male figure. Society became male dominated and the female was made subordinate to the male. तो यहाँ पे ऑथर ये कह रहे हैं कि पहले जमाने में और ऐसी बुक्स भी आई है एक एक चाइना की बुक है जो बता रहे हैं okay no sorry there's a book that they've mentioned so in that they describe the being as infinite eternally present the mother of the universe so पहले they used to say the goddess or the divine mother बट जब वो उसके बाद जब माइंड टेक ओवर करना शुरू हुआ तो फिर क्या हुआ फिर दे स्टार्टेड इमेजिनिंग थिंकिंग अबाउट गॉड एज अ मेल फिगर व्हेन माइंड स्टार्टेड बहुत ज्यादा माइंड आइडेंटिफिकेशन हुई थी तब तो उससे क्या हुआ फिर सोसाइटी मेल डोमिनेटेड होना शुरू हो गई और जो फीमेल्स है दे वर लुक्ड अपॉन एज सबऑर्डिनेट टू द मेल I am not suggesting a return to earlier female representations of the divine. Some people now use the term goddess instead of god. They are redressing a balance between male and female that was lost a long time ago, and that is good. But it is still a representation and a concept perhaps temporarily useful. Just as a map or a signpost is temporarily useful, but more a hindrance than a help when you are ready to realize the reality beyond all concepts and images. What does remain true, however, is the energy frequency of the mind appears to be essentially male. The mind resists fights or control, uses, manipulates, attacks, tries to grasp and possesses, and so on. This is why the traditional God is patriarchal, controlling authority figure, an often angry man who should live in fear of, as the Old Testament suggests. This God is a projection of the human mind. तो यहाँ पे ऑथर ये एक्सप्लेन करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि द माइंड की जो फ्रीक्वेंसी है दैट इज एसेंशियली मेल दैट इज एसेंशियली लाइक मेल डोमिनेटेड इन द सेंस कि यहाँ पे वो डिस्क्राइब कर माइंड को एज अ मेल बिकॉज माइंड में क्या है रेजिस्टेंस है कंट्रोलिंग पावर और ये सब माइंड है सो दैट इज द ऑथर इज सेइंग दैट इज एसेंशियली मेल तभी वो ट्रेडिशनली गॉड को ऐसे अथॉरिटी फिगर इमेजिन किया हुआ है जैसे हमें डरना चाहिए उनसे एंड स्टफ तो दिस जो ये इमेज बनाई हुई है दैट इज एक्चुअली ऑफ द ह्यूमन माइंड दैट इज नॉट गॉड to go beyond the mind and reconnect with the deeper reality of being very different qualities are needed surrender, non judgment, and openness that allows life to be instead of resisting it. The capacity to hold all things in the loving embrace of your knowing. All these qualities are much more closely related to the female principle, whereas mind energy is hard and rigid, being energy is soft and yielding, and yet infinitely more powerful than mind. तो वही ऑथर कह रहे हैं कि अगर आपको माइंड के बियॉन्ड जाना है और डीपर जो रियलिटी के साथ कनेक्ट करना है तो आपको कौन सी क्वालिटीज चाहिए यू हैव टू बी एबल टू बी नॉन जजमेंटल और हैव यू हैव टू बी एबल टू हैव दैट acceptance surrender openness to everything no resistance so these are more closely related to the female principle. Whereas mind energy is hard and rigid, being energy is soft and yielding, and yet infinitely more powerful than mind. The mind runs our civilization, whereas being is in charge of all life on our planet and beyond. Being is the very intelligence whose visible manifestation is the physical universe. Although women are potentially closer to it, men can also access it within themselves. At this time, the vast majority of men, as well as women, are still in the grip of the mind, identified with the thinker and the pain body. This, of course, is what prevents enlightenment and the flowering of love. As a general rule, the major obstacle for men tends to be the thinking mind, and the major obstacle for the women, the pain body. Although in certain individuals' cases, the opposite may be true, and in others, the two factors may be equal. तो यहाँ पे ऑथर यही कह रहे हैं कि why in this day and age why are people not able to feel the inner body feel the being experience enlightenment because they are too much identified with the mind और यहाँ पे author कह रहे हैं कि majority men are identified with the mind and majority women are identified with the pain body तो इसकी वजह से वो नहीं एक्सपीरियंस कर पाते enlightenment. Okay. Dissolving the collective female pain body. Why is the pain body more of an obstacle for women? The pain body usually has a collective as well as a personal aspect. The personal aspect is the accumulated residue of emotional pain suffered in one's own past. you know, uh, women may especially, holding on to, past pain, जो accumulate हुई है, emotions, feelings को hold on करना ज़्यादा common है, than men. तो यही वो समझा रहे हैं author कि accumulated residue of emotional pain मतलब past का pain को hold on करना, उसको let go नहीं करना, the collective one is the pain accumulated in the collective human psyche over thousands of years through disease, torture, war, murder, cruelty, madness, and so on. Everyone's personal pain body also partakes of this collective pain body. तो एक personal pain body एक collective है जो बहुत सारे जैसे कहते हैं ना जन्मों से चढ़ी हुई है हम पे तो एक तो पर्सनल है जो हम इसी लाइफ टाइम में एक्सपीरियंस करते हैं एक जो पास्ट फ्रॉम मेनी बर्थ्स चली आ रही है There are different strands in the collective pain body. For example, certain races or countries in which extreme forms of strife and violence occur have a heavier collective pain body than others. Anyone with a strong pain body and not enough consciousness to disidentify from it will not only continuously or periodically be forced to relive their emotional pain, but may also easily become either the perpetrator or the victim of violence, depending on whether they are paid off. pain body is predominantly active or passive. जो किसी अगर कोई कोई है जिन्होंने जो कई कंट्रीज हैं जहाँ पे बहुत डिजीज वॉर मर्डर क्रूरटी ये सब हुआ है तो बहुत ज्यादा वायलेंस हुई है उनके साथ या उनके आसपास लोगों में तो दैट कलेक्टिव जो कह रहे हैं ना पेन बॉडी ऑथर समझा रहे हैं दैट वो बहुत ज्यादा बिल्डअप होती है इन सम पीपल बहुत ज्यादा स्ट्रांग होती है तो दे आर नॉट एबल टू डिसआइडेंटिफाई फ्रॉम इट तो इन दैट केसेस वो बहुत ज्यादा इमोशनल पेन में रहते हैं और वो दे कैन ऑल्सो बिकम अ विक्टिम ऑफ वायलेंस. On the other hand, they may also be potentially closer to enlightenment. This potential isn't necessarily realized, of course, but if you're trapped in a nightmare, you will probably be more strongly motivated to awaken than someone who is just caught up in the ups and downs of an ordinary dream. जब बहुत ज्यादा कोई पेन बॉडी कलेक्टिव पेन बॉडी पर्सनल पेन बॉडी से अफेक्टेड होते हैं तो उनके लिए भी इट इज मोर पॉसिबल फॉर देम टू बी क्लोजर टू एनलाइटनमेंट बिकॉज इतनी ज्यादा जैसे ऑथर ने कहा दे आर गोइंग थ्रू अ नाइटमेयर दैट फॉर देम इट इज more likely that they will be awakened. Apart from her personal pain body, everyone has her share in what could be described as the collective female pain body, unless she is fully conscious. This consists of accumulated pain suffered by women partly through male subjugation of the female, through slavery, exploitation, rape, childbirth, child loss, and so on, over thousands of years. तो ये क्या ऑथर कह रहे हैं जो फीमेल क्यों अ, इतने ज्यादा ज्यादा इनलाइटनमेंट के why are they more enlightened than men? एक तो उनकी जो पेन बॉडी है एक तो पर्सनल है और अक्यूमुलेटेड भी है क्योंकि वो इतने ज्यादा सफरिंग से they gone through over a period of thousands of years being undermined by the males so that is the reason why they इतना ज्यादा जैसे ऑथर ने कहा ना द नाइट में so they want to be in awakened they want to be aware of who they actually are of their inner being. तो जब बहुत ज्यादा पेन से go through करते हैं, then there's more chance of being enlightened. The emotional or physical pain that for many women precedes and coincides with the menstrual flow is the pain body in its collective aspect that awakens from its dormancy at that time, although it can be triggered at other times too. It restricts the free flow of life energy through the body, of which menstruation is a physical expression. Let's dwell on this for a moment and see how it can become an opportunity for enlightenment. So, जो pain body है, especially women के लिए, वो during the menstrual flow, तभी भी awaken होती है. Because एक वो जो free flow of life है, that goes through a woman in a physical form through menstruation. So this, according to the author, can be an opportunity for enlightenment. Okay, so we'll continue with the rest tomorrow. कल हम आगे का करेंगे. Okay, so thank you so much for joining. We'll start from here. Often a woman is taken over. Okay. So thank you so much for joining today's session. We'll see you again tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you